Hello, I'm Mark Enzer. I'm a strategic advisor at Mott MacDonald, and I'd like to talk a little bit about why we need an approach that is outcomes focused and systems based. So I'd like to start this little narrative with the outcomes, because I think that's really what it's all about. And if we look at the outcomes, what we actually want to get from our built environment and from human settlements, I think we can see that there are many. And maybe at the top, we can consider the global outcomes, which can be nicely articulated in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. But those are not the only ones. I think it becomes really important to understand outcomes at a global, at a national, at a regional, and a local level. And all those outcomes ideally should be aligned so that what we do at a local level kind of points in the direction of the higher level SDGs. So we're starting off with this idea of aligned outcomes. And this is really about better outcomes for people and nature. That's what it's all about. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And that's what I think we should see that is the purpose of the built environment. But if we have those outcomes as a starting point, then we need to see how we get there. And I think it's really important to see the role of systems in delivering outcomes. And if we're focusing on outcomes for people and nature, we can see that actually the systems we're dealing with are built systems and natural systems. And the way that we get to those outcomes is really via the services that they provide. So in terms of the ecosystem services, we're talking about having fresh air to breathe and clean water and healthy soil on which to grow crops. But then in the built systems, there's all sorts of services as well, like mobility and shelter and security and protection. And so that's how we get to the outcomes. It's really from using the systems. And if we want to get better outcomes, then means we need to understand the systems better and intervene more effectively so that we get better use. And in the built systems, there are all sorts of processes which help us to do that. And right at the center, the most important one, I think, is use, because that's where we get the value from our built environment. But in order to make the built environment available for use, then we have to operate and maintain it. And those are processes which go on forever. For as long as we want the services for society and for society to thrive, then those processes have to go on. They're kind of forever processes. And then every now and again, we want to intervene on the systems. And that's when we kick off our planning and designing and building and commissioning. And so those are intermittent processes and follow a life cycle of the assets. And so I think it's really healthy to see our projects in terms of interventions on the system. And then the system delivers the services and the services deliver the outcomes. And so we can see here actually the whole logic chain, a kind of a theory of change, all the way through from outcomes, services, systems, and interventions. And that's why it is so important that we bring systems thinking as really an essential enabler to achieving SDGs. And we can see that the role of project management in driving those interventions better is absolutely key. And the reason why all of this is so important is because at the moment, the big challenges that we face are system level challenges. Climate change affects the whole system. It doesn't just happen in silos. And so if we are to achieve net zero, if we are to provide climate resilience, to deliver infrastructure equity, to create a circular economy, to protect biodiversity, all of these are system level challenges that demand systems-based solutions. So we really need to get our heads around this systems-based approach. Outcomes focused, systems based. But I would also add community enabled, because we have to pull together to do this. At the moment, most of these systems I've talked about are managed in silos, and we have to break those silos. We have to work across them. We have to pull together to make all of this wonderful stuff happen. And the good news, I guess, in this is that we do have agency. If we do pull together, we can make this change happen. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mark. That was a really fantastic insight into the importance of systems thinking. I think if I talked about systems thinking in my project team, I mean, they've already got a lot of demands on their time. and there's already a whole load of things that they've got to handle. And so probably the questions would come back something like, well, aren't we doing that already? And if they're not doing it already, then are there any tools available to help us start to do this? Do you think that the sort of new wave of digital stuff coming through will help?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because you're right. People do need help in this. And I think that there absolutely are tools which are becoming available. Maybe they're not all completely with us now, but I think what you point to in talking about digital is kind of the area that we should look, because there's an awful lot of really exciting developments in there. And certainly when it comes to systems thinking and applying complexity science, the tools are being developed and are emerging that help us in specifically that place, yes. And so a really good example of this would be digital twins and connected digital twins. And I'm sure people would have heard about these, but I think essentially with a digital twin, what that can help us with is making better decisions faster. So on my diagram where I showed those processes, the kind of connected processes, I described some of them being forever processes and some of them being more intermittent. On those processes, there's a whole bunch of decisions which would need to be made. And so you can imagine a whole load of potential use cases for digital twins, which help us to make better decisions faster. So you could have digital twins to help make better use decisions, better operational decisions, better design decisions. So all around that diagram, you can imagine individual digital twins being useful tools to help us. But that's not the end of the story, because what we can also imagine now are connected digital twins. This is digital twins that talk to each other. So you can start to consider an ecosystem of connected digital twins. And where that becomes really exciting is in the kind of the bigger systems piece of starting to understand the systems better and then intervene more effectively. So you can kind of see the individual digital twins being really good to help make better decisions faster, connected digital twins being really useful to help understand the whole system better and intervene more effectively. So yes, I think digital can help us out. But what we should always realize is that digital is an enabler, and it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to take away all the problems, but it's really useful tools that we can use and bring to this particular problem space.
I think that's really interesting. I think that my experience of it is, because I work in major projects rather than in asset management, what I find is that quite a lot of attention might be paid to a very detailed digital twin in terms of construction information for a major project. But some of the conclusion I'm coming to is that maybe more of the societal outcomes are better represented by more of the asset twins than necessarily the intervention twins, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it really does. And I think that because you can have digital twins of assets and processes and systems, you can imagine actually lots of different digital twins for lots of different purposes. And so, yes, some of the digital twins which would be useful in major projects would be digital twins of processes, digital twins of supply chain and that kind of thing. But what we can also imagine are digital twins of assets in use, digital twins of networks, digital twins of systems, and then how systems work together. So for example, the connection between energy and transport. Clearly, it's a massively important connection, but you kind of need the digital twin of energy systems to talk to a digital twin of transport systems. Or maybe I should even correct myself on that. Digital twins of energy systems and digital twins of transport system. We imagine lots of them, and so it becomes really important to get the information flow between them to work.
And just finally, just to pick up on, I know that you were I think the chair of the National Digital Twin Programme. Was it looking at as a twin of a specific thing? Was it a systems twin? Like what is, in 30 seconds or a minute, what is a national digital twin?
Good question. So yes, I was the head of the National Digital Twin Programme when it was based at the Centre for Digital Built Britain. It's moved on now, and it continues and is developing really good stuff. But the idea is the same. And the idea is not for one massive, great big digital twin of everything. The
One
idea
twin
is
to bring them all and in the darkness find them.
yeah, exactly. So the idea is for an ecosystem of connected digital twins, and they should all be purpose driven. So you develop each digital twin one purpose at a time, and then each connection between digital twins one purpose at a time. So you get this purpose driven ecosystem growing in quite a biological kind of way, but the purpose is super important.
Cool. Mark, thanks so much. And I think we're going to move on to another speaker.